Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Woman on TV.tv, iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, and the Worldwide TV Network, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Comcast. And I know I'm forgetting one more because there's just so much stuff going on. I got to welcome these two people to our Movie Reviews and More. Usually it's myself and a couple of my co-hosts, but this one I chose to do this one because it's all about movies right now. We have to start with ladies first because ladies are inspiration. First names first, last name, film. Go ahead.
My name is Hemal Trivedi. I'm the director and one of the producers of the film Battleground.
And then Jonah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jonah Markowitz. I'm a Brooklyn-based photojournalist and filmmaker and co-director, producer, and DOP of Battleground. All
right, so about Battleground, very interesting film. These, I keep telling everybody that these films are going to be challenging because not only are they timely, very interesting to watch, very good filmmaking and directing. Talk about putting this together. These aren't easy to do because you got everybody who's divided, no matter what state it may be in. But you also have people, I love the fact because I have 13 co-hosts, all women. I had no idea that most of them supported the president, which is very interesting. My number one co-host is an avid Trump supporter, but she's been a very conservative Republican for a long time. She has over 3 million views. So I tell her, no matter where we travel, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, you can go nuts. In your home state of California, you can't because you will end up alienating people and pissing them off. So what you guys did and described, going to the neighborhoods, you can have people who've been friends for a long time, but during the 2016 election cycle, man, what did you guys experience? Because what we saw, people dividing, neighbors fighting, family members not speaking to each other, you guys hit it on the mark. Talk about it.
So I think the journey of this film started, I live in New Jersey and I was born and raised in India. I'm a first generation immigrant in this country. And I live in this ethnic enclave in India, in New Jersey, which is like a little India. So I feel like I live in my bubble. And when Trump got elected, I was so shocked because I couldn't believe it. I was like, how can this ever happen? Because earlier I used to think, Trump is like, this man is never going to get elected. I mean, look at him. I mean, he sounded like a joke to me. And I shouldn't use those words, but that's what it really felt like. And then I realized that I know this country. I do not know this country very well. Like I know so little about this country. So I decided to step outside of my bubble. And my journey took me to Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania, which is kind of this epicenter of this conflict. And, Jonah joined on my quest, and then my quest became our quest. And then, we gave birth to this baby 3 years later. So it took us 3 years of investigating and eventually figuring out what is it that divides us and what is it that unites us.
So from the beginning, the film was always going to be a bipartisan film. Excuse me. It was always going to be a bipartisan film. We weren't interested in making and sort of staying in our kind of echo chambers where because I'm in Brooklyn, New York, very blue city in a state that always goes blue. And like Hemal talked about her enclave in New Jersey, we really wanted to step out of that. We wanted to step out of both our comfort zones, but also, I think that's also what we need to do kind of as a nation too. So that's why we went to the Lehigh Valley, which is a place that voted, makes up 2 counties in a place that is a bellwether for our national politics, right? Everybody's talking about Northampton County right now because that's the big question. What will Northampton County go to President Trump or to Vice President Biden?
It was very interesting. I was glad that you both chose that particular area because you can see how things have changed. When you have those changes coming in and you have more people of color moving in, it's always been this way. I grew up in a town of East Lyme, Connecticut. I grew up in a mixed town, Waterford, New London in Connecticut, where we all played together. We all got along and everything like that. And when we moving on up, the Jeffersons, we moved to an all-white town of 7,000 in East Lyme, Connecticut, where Lyme disease comes from. There was only 3 Black families there. So luckily, I had a great experience. My sister did not. And it was very interesting because as soon as we moved in to the neighborhood, 2 families moved out, literally within like days. They moved that quickly. And I never forgot that. But I was one of those things where if I could get along in East Lyme, Connecticut, and then I could shoot my shows in Franklin, Tennessee, where it's really, really hard Trump supporting towns. And by the way, one of our sites, IT247, you've heard of the president talking to a couple of people every day. Well, one of them is Don King. The other one is Jimmy Adams. They're the people that run our site where I have 3.9 million views in Tennessee. So you can imagine me not wanting to alienate anybody because you have to coexist because it's about your outlet, it's about what you're doing. So you two hit it right on the nail when you're talking about these things because literally the president would call, I was stepping out the room. I didn't need to hear the conversation. And it was interesting because not only did they tell me, Brian, if anybody asks you, you're a Republican. Those were Don King's words. Now, you know, Don King has always been a Republican because a lot of minorities grew up at that way. So I'm sure you saw a lot of the changes, and it was interesting in how you talked about the 2 people running because I knew who they were. I was paying attention to those races. So it was even more fascinating to me that you guys picked that county and those people who are running because I had been watching those races.
Wow. That's fascinating. So you knew Susan Wild and Marty Nordstein and when they were running. Wow.
Yeah, I grew up at News Radio 14, which was an all news radio site in Connecticut. So my senators were Joseph Lieberman, who was John McCain's best friend at that point, and then Christopher Dodd. And then Christopher Dodd became the MPAA executive director. So I had always been talking to them on the phone for years doing interviews. And then throw this in, Gayle King, Oprah's best friend, she was on Channel 7 back in then when we started. So we all used to talk on the phone, but we had never met. So I had always been paying attention to races like that. So that's why I found your film even more fascinating. People who haven't seen it yet, talk about why this is important because you 2 did a really great job.
Thank you. So I feel like, you know, sorry.
Oh, no, continue.
Oh, okay. I thought you were waiting for someone. Okay. So I thought, you know, one of the primary drivers for me to make this film and go on this journey is because I grew up in India where I saw what divisions could lead up to. Like I grew up when I was a teenager, there was a massive communal riots and the neighborhood behind my house was burned down and my school was shut down for 1 year. And you know, I saw how neighbors turned against neighbors and everybody was like lynching on the street. And, you know, after Donald Trump's victory, I was just a little worried that, you know, I mean, although I did not expect such gory results in America, but I expected a lot of, I saw so much polarization, which I had not seen in this country for the past 15 years. And that's what drove me into trying to make a film where we can possibly find some common ground so this film can be a catalyst to drive conversations.
Also, I think, you know, this film stands in direct comparison to the Twitter wars, to the vicious cable news cycles, to, you know, the really antagonistic language that's coming out of both sides. And this film is a deep dive and an intimate portrait of politics in a way that promotes having conversations and shows a through line that exists between even what's considered to be the far left and right. The people that we are supposed to believe are on complete polar opposite sides. And that if we felt if we can show the humanity in those 2 sides, then we can kind of provide a little bit of a framework for trying to heal the divide.
Exactly. You know, the interesting thing about that, not to give anything away because I love documentaries. I love the segment when Murray's going to plant his signs and the guy says, put that sign near me, near my that hits right on the mark because it's interesting because you can have in certain neighborhoods, you can have your Biden sign and your Trump sign. People will get along, but at the same time, it's still like it was in 2015, 2016. I will never forget, I was doing stuff at the Hollywood Film Festival. I was picking films at that point, and we were meeting at our publicist's house, and it was Christmas Day. And I'll never forget, the one guy says, oh, Donald Trump is going to win this election. And I said, no, he's not. He needs my vote. I'm not being wrong. I wish I could go back and apologize to this guy because I was wrong. Because I mean, just like you, I didn't see that coming. Now, remember, I had interviewed Donald Trump throughout the years for Celebrity Apprentice and Donald Jr. and Ivanka. So I knew them as a different way. So how I get along way around with things, no matter what red state I may be in, because we have great numbers cross country in red states. So imagine when they come up to me and ask you, so who are you supporting? What did I just say? What Don King said and Jimmy Adams?
Yeah, the Republican.
In the early 80s, I'm a Republican. And here's how I get away with it. They go, oh, so you've interviewed the president? I'm like, well, yeah. You know, I've been interviewing him and the daughter and Don Jr. for years. And then I'm okay. That's how I got away with that. So imagine what that's like.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think what we also encountered those kind of dancing those lines too. That was a big challenge, was how do you get a group like the progressives and a group like the Tea Party to both trust you, right? To both open up to you and we were honest with everybody that we were filming with. I mean, they knew that we were filming, we would leave a Tea Party event and go straight to a progressive event. And that was upfront, non-negotiable. It's a part of what we do. And we pledged to them to keep their views intact. And so far it's one of the few pieces of media that we've gotten, you know, we've told the Tea Party chairman, Tom Carroll, has told us that we kept his views intact, and same go with the progressives. So there's not very much media out there that can appeal to both of those groups, and both of those groups feel seen and represented. And that was, we're very proud of that. Very, very proud of that.
Well, that's why it's important, because it's not easy to toe that line. I love getting both opposite parties together. That is a great thing. I mean, so who came up with that idea?
Well, I think it was Jonah and I. We always thought that we always had this dream that they would come together and have a conversation. And we were like, what should happen? Maybe a town hall. Maybe they might just bump into each other at a shopping mall. Or, we were just like coming up with ideas of getting them together. And it organically happened. It was, when Tom Carroll ran for his DA race, his paths crossed with Greg Edwards, and they had somebody in common that they could talk about, which was us, because we had been filming with both of them. So they knew both of them knew us. So they were like talking about us. And I think that got them started. And so they decided to meet, and we then facilitated their desire. So it was something that happened organically, something that we wanted. And we were, when we started filming that conversation, I remember that morning I was so nervous, because I was like, what if they don't talk, or what if they cannot talk, and it would just be single syllable answers and very polite. But they hit it off so well, and they started talking, and we were so surprised. Really, we were not expecting this.
I love what you did, because it seems like it's easy to do, but it's not necessarily easy to do that, but you pulled it off. So I love that, because it's not easy to bring people together, but sometimes food is. And then, not to give anything away, because I love many aspects of which, how you put stuff together. It's not easy going behind the scenes and getting people together. And that's what people don't understand. For example, this is my 210 show. I do 3 to 5 shows a day. However, no one meets or beats what we have. We have 6.2 million views a day and counting. No one is beating what we happen to do in the world. And I only started Zoom, which I don't care for, April 2nd. So this is our 32nd week, 7th of doing that. Imagine what that's like. And like I said, I have 13 co-hosts, different countries, different states and time zones, and it's challenging. So usually I would have my other movie reviewers on it, but they didn't get a chance to see it. I'm like, no, I want you to come on, because I want you to see why you need to see it. And he's a staunch liberal. He can't stand the president. But again, it goes off to you guys because of what she created. So Jonah, what was it like when they found out where you were coming from, what your politics were like? But again, your job is just to get it done and leave the politics aside. What was that like for you?
I think it's a fine line. You have to walk a fine line. Tom Carroll always understood that we may not see eye to eye politically, but he has to believe and trust in us to represent his viewpoints accurately. And so in order to bring out sort of his authenticity, he needs to believe in my authenticity.
Right.
He needs to believe and trust in me and Hemal to tell his story with care and properly. And I think that's the same sort of human connection that we tried to foster between Greg and him. I mean, and it's quite frankly the human connection that a lot of these talking heads that are, willing to be very vocal on Twitter, if you were to put them in the same room and turn the cameras off and they weren't performing any longer, they would be having these conversations themselves about the very human baseline things that we all just want and need from our political system and our government. And so that's what we were trying to achieve there. And the same goes for trying to get access. I mean, we are as filmmakers, the same way that we made the film and our approach was the same way we're gaining access. It's all about trust and authenticity.
When you both reached out to them, did anybody say no initially? Because that's always a challenge, because they're running, they want to have the publicity, but they're not necessarily knowing where the alignments may be, because they want to look good. And again, that's a hard part what people don't recognize. So again, hats off to you, because it's not easy to do.
I think it's not, it was such a slow process, because when we first went into the Valley, we had an open-ended quest. So we met Greg Edwards through a bunch of other people who already knew him. And in the beginning, when we were talking, I think Greg Edwards probably had just announced his candidacy, or he wasn't even running. So he wasn't a politician at that time. I think we met them as people. We did not meet them as politicians or political figures. We met them as activists. And in a matter of time, they became politicians. But, they, and I think that is the reason why they were like unguarded in front of us, because first and foremost, it took such a long time. First couple of interviews, they were a little stiff, but later on they opened up. And then I think because we knew them before they started their political journey, we kind of started building that trust. And they knew, they knew that these guys are just coming, hanging out, filming, nothing comes out of it. Who God knows if this film is ever going to be made. I mean, I think because we were just like these filmmakers who did not have any big film crew or any big star power or any of those things, I think we just didn't seem very threatening to them. And that's the reason why they let us in, is they just were like, oh, these people are just fine. That's what it was, I think. That's my belief. What do you think, Jonah?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's persistence. I think everybody can put on airs for like a couple days, to try and make their way through an interview or something and try to like conjure up that person that they want to be on camera. They can do it for a day, maybe for a couple days. But if you just show up day after day and you start to become, those weird out of town filmmakers, we start to become a part of the fabric of the political scene there, which we truly did. Then it's hard. It's hard to put on airs all the time. It's you get to peel back that onion and see a little bit more about what's going on inside. And that's one of the things that I love about documentary filmmaking, despite the time commitments and crazy long shoot days and production schedules. So.
I mean, we were so much a part of the fabric that even the trackers started getting in touch with us for like political intelligence. We were like, where is Susan Weil going to be again? I mean, we kind of became these people who were just always there for no reason. And so we kind of became like, we never gave intelligence on anyone, but a lot of people just got in touch with us to kind of find out information about political things that were happening in the Valley.
So what happens when a woman of color who happens to be a descendant from India decides to pick up a camera and say, we want to do a film on you? How does that work? Not easy.
I think my background is kind of interesting because I come from a very, very conservative Indian family. My grandfather was a staunch Hindu nationalist, and he believed in BJP, which is the current governing party of India, and I grew up in a very working class family. And growing up, my grandfather used to just despise liberal elites, and he used to be like, "Oh, these liberals, they just piggyback ride on us, and they don't do anything. They just talk and talk." And so I mean, seriously, that's what it was. And so when I actually heard, I was terrified of going to the Tea Party meeting because I thought that they would outrightly reject me. So I was sitting in the parking lot, and Jonah went and filmed. And when he came back with the footage, and I looked at Tom Carroll, and I was like, oh my God, this guy reminds me of my grandfather. Now, my grandfather, he may have very strong ideas, but he was a man of integrity and principles and honesty. And, I think those two things are, your ideals are very different from your ethical and moral composition and your humanity. And so I think we should not merge them. And because of my background, I knew that I may disagree with some of his ideas, but I cannot, that does not mean that I demonize him. And I think, and also because of my background, I was suspicious of Greg Edwards. I know it's hard to believe, but Greg Edwards in the beginning reminded me of these cult-like figures that I saw in socialist India who were like, who were good at whipping up the crowd and getting everyone excited and selling this utopian ideal, which does not deliver anything. So I was like, I don't know if this guy is authentic. And Jonah was attracted to him. He was a huge fan. He'll talk more about how he was attracted. So that's how the journey kind of began.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as Greg Edwards goes, I mean, I think I recognized his charisma right away, but more importantly, I recognized his authenticity right away, that his heart was in the right place, that he had been doing the work that he was kind of running on, the social justice issues that he was running on. He had been doing that work in the community for years. And he was using language that had clarity, that had intention, that had clearly been thought about for a long time. And so I recognized that in him right away. It was just easier for me to recognize that because of my background, coming from Brooklyn, coming from a family which has fought for workers' rights and feminist issues. My parents have fought for those issues their entire lives and careers. And so it was easier for me to recognize sort of that authenticity, and when someone has been thinking about it for a long time rather than just sort of spouting off what's politically convenient in the moment.
Was this submitted to any film festivals, and how far in advance before COVID did you finish this film?
Unfortunately, we couldn't submit to the film festivals because we almost finished it like late September. A lot of these things that you see in the film kind of happened more recently, just like Black Lives Matter protests, which were polarizing events. And, we were filming until August or September, and we barely made the PBS deadline. We wanted to make sure that the film comes out before the election. So we couldn't wait for any festival cycle to kind of, give us some love. So.
No, you were smart to do what you did, the way you did. Because even when I'm finding films and putting it in for Switch, Southern Women in Film and Television at a Tennessee, or Lloyd International Film Festival, which is the mini Sundance in Wisconsin, they choose my picks for things, which is why I like working with David and company throughout all the years. He's always got great films, and I don't care where I may be. I need to see his film. I'm a film whore. So if it's, when it comes to documentaries, I'm like, I know he's picking good films. Until this day, I don't know how he does it, but I tell people, David's always got great films no matter what.
I mean, we would love to if you guys want to consider our film for your festival, we would love to show it. It's just that we didn't have an opportunity to do it until now because we were chasing a political cycle.
So while you were seeing this stuff, I mean, and the good thing is that you not to give anything away, you caught up at the end credits, which was good. Smart move on your end on how you did that. Very, very clever. But the other thing about that is, what was it like for both of you when the pandemic hit? Because I always tell people, and I'm on record saying this, I've known about this was coming since October 3rd of 2018. I just didn't know the name of it, which is why we've been doing so successful. I was preparing for all this and I knew it was coming. So for us being locked down, we weren't ever locked down. We were still going. And I'm one of the few cross country who's been in the studio ever since.
Well, yeah, I mean, for us to change things significantly. We still were filming some things. We filmed some some open PA protests by the Tea Party. We filmed Juneteenth with Greg Edwards and some Black Lives Matter things that happened in the Valley. But it disrupted our workflow significantly. We were both in the epicenter in the US in New York City and around, and life really shut down there, shut down here. And it's disrupted professional life as well. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be a photojournalist for the New York Times as well as a filmmaker. So when my filmmaking work died down some, I was able to work more often for the New York Times, which was great. But it's definitely affected us. We did not see it coming in 2018. So good for you.
Hey. And like I said, everything, I had been building all this stuff up. We were the first to have the Chinese come over for the Hollywood Film Festival. And so I knew what it's like having Chinese actress Bai Ling, who's a personal friend, and then having the prime minister come over, and traditional meets younger, they don't get along. And you can understand this, Harmon, coming from an Indian background, you know what that's like when you have those worlds. They don't mix, and you can't even take a photo with them. That's why I was happy that you guys did what you did with the opening scene with that, because you know it's going to be great at that point, getting those people to sit down and do what they need to do and just talk. And that's what we need to do, just talk. You can have different opinions. As Reverend Al Sharpton would say, you can have different opinions, but you can't have different facts. And that's interesting when it comes to it.
Yeah.
Have they seen this yet? That's my other question. What has been the feelings, the thoughts?
Well, Greg Edwards, he loves it. He loved the trailer. He keeps sending us text messages about how all his a lot of people around him have loved it, and he's gotten positive feedback. So Greg Edwards really likes it. And I think Jonah has been in touch with Tom Carroll, and what has been his opinion on it?
Yeah, Tom Carroll thinks we represented his viewpoints well. Tea Party is happy with how they were represented in terms of how their viewpoints are displayed or talked about in the film, which I think was important. It wasn't so important that our characters' camps be happy with what we were said, but that what was said about them. But it was important that their viewpoints were represented in the way in their reality, not necessarily how they necessarily want to spin them, but how they exist when they're talking to each other. And so we were very happy that both the progressive side and the Tea Party feel that we didn't try to misrepresent them or put our own sort of biases on either one of those parties. And we've been doing conservative talk radio, and we've been on trade shows, and we've been on some more liberal media. So we're making the rounds, and it's great to have a piece of filmmaking that is transcendent in that way.
Good for you guys, because that's not easy. I can't remember a documentary where everybody was happy.
No. The centrists, I'm sure the establishment people are not happy with it. And I feel we might actually get some pushback from the centrist Democrats, because I think it is quite critical of, the center in general, but center Democrats just, I think so. So I think we are getting some pushback. We're getting some silent treatment. Let's not call it a pushback. our two characters, are the two people in the film. They love it, and Michael Johns, who is the co-founder of Tea Party, loves the film and he wants to promote it, which was very surprising for me particularly. But I'm excited that somebody who is conservative also likes it and somebody who's progressive also likes it. It's just the people in the middle are not very. They're very polite with us, but
it's also people.
This is the closest that you two can come to making everybody happy, because what you have done, you made everybody happy. That's what I mean. It's not easy to do that.
Yes.
It's also, I will add the caveat that it's the people who are in the center of political circles that are not happy. It's not centrist-minded voters. It's not people who think that they are somewhere in the middle that are unhappy. It's people who are affiliated with the political machine that are not happy with it, because I think we do a good job at exposing sort of what goes on in that political machine, and how it's not always not always what the voters want that ends up being put forward. So that's why they're not happy. Can't make everyone happy, but
No, but you guys have come very close. That's hats off. That's not easy. I got a couple minutes left. So what do you guys have coming up? What are you working on?
Well, I'm a professional editor, so I'm currently editing a documentary about criminal justice reform in Philadelphia. It's a series, so I'm doing one of the episodes, and that's about it. And I'm a mother of 2 kids, so I'm also homeschooling, which is a lot of work.
Yeah, you didn't sign up for that one, did you?
What?
You didn't sign up for that one, did you?
I didn't. No, my 8-year-old I have a 3rd grader who is very demanding, and I have an 18-month-old who is very, very demanding. But yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Congratulations on that. Not easy being that. Wow.
Yeah.
And Joe?
I'm in development on a couple different projects, feature projects that include like a look at sort of California and New York's COVID responses.
Interesting.
And another one that I can't say anything about yet. We're not far enough along, but and then I'm still working for the New York Times on a few things. I'm covering some of the protests that are happening about the natural gas pipeline running through Brooklyn at the moment.
Ooh,
so
interesting.
Got some work coming out for them in the next few days. So.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with next. I mean, that's really, really good. Both interesting projects. So I will give you social media links so everybody can check out.
Thank you. I have a question for you. You mentioned Hollywood Film Festival a couple of times. My famous film, Among the Believers, was on Hollywood Film Festival.
We were champion of films. That film actually ended up winning.
Yes, it did. It won the best film at the film festival. Yes.
Still a great film till this day. That was 5 years ago.
Yes, it was 5 years ago. It was my baby, baby number 2.
Exactly.
So that means if Battleground doesn't win, then we can blame it on baby number 2, right?
Oh my God.
No, our team ended up picking that for Beloit International Film Festival and from Hollywood, because we were finding better films from Chicago, Wisconsin, and then our teams would get together. So Greg Gerard, who's the executive director now, I'm helping him for Beloit. So that's why I was saying I'm going to call him as soon as I end with this and say, guess what? I got another film for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to thank you guys for that. So how can people check out where they can see this?
It's right now on PBS, WGBH. It premiered. It's online on their website. And I think our distribution is also handled by PBSD, PBS distribution. Eventually, but we have a website that it's www.battlegroundfilm.com, and that website gives up-to-date information on where it can be seen and things like that. But PBS World is our home, and Chris Hastings, one of our executive producers, has given a lot of love to this film.
Yeah, it's also on social media at the same handle, Battleground Film on Instagram and Facebook, so you can check it out there, and we'll post where you can see it, and it's playing on PBS broadcast all over the nation. So if you are curious about the schedule, either hit us up at battlegroundfilm.com or Battleground Film on social media. And my own personal social media, if you're interested in that New York Times stuff or others, is Jonah Markowitz on Instagram and Facebook.
Hey, I want to thank you too, because I know this is not the last time I'm going to see you guys. We're going to say we want to be on Brian's show because we know what he's doing, especially when it comes picking amongst the relievers, because yeah, right. we had a great countdown for that. If you remember that program that we did for that, so thank you for that. So
thank you.
Thank everybody for that. And again, I have to always say this: if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, Worldwide TV Network, WomenOnTV.tv, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Comcast, and we will see you next week.